Okay, so this is one of the funniest stories ever. Everybody's already talking about it. Maybe I'm going over ground that you've already covered. Rachel Maddow made probably one of the biggest, blunders in the history of broadcast news, bringing on a guy named, um, I think his name is Kay Johnston. I have him here in the shadow government. Sorry for not being ready, but I have a busier schedule now. This group, his name is, I think is K. Johnston. David K. Johnston, yeah. KCAY. Um, Look, these guys, the shadow government or the shadow cabinet that we've been hearing about, um, these guys are not the real shadow government that is being talked about with the CIA and everything. This is a group of a lot of them are former Clinton supporters. I might have done a video about this already. Former Clinton, not just supporters, but officials. Among them is, probably the chief among them is that guy, Robert Reich. He was the labor secretary under Bill Clinton in the 90s. And their MO has been to continuously go on policy by policy and denounce the Trumps as fraud and basically try to make it as if he's a failure and refute every argument that he has. There's a group of people on Twitter, and that's what they do. And she had one of them on, and one of them claimed that he had Trump's tax returns, or the first two pages of them, dropped in his email. Or sorry, dropped in his physical mailbox. And then he runs to the MSNBC and says, "Look at me, I have his tax returns." You know, basically whoring a document that, first of all, how was he to know that was the real tax return? Now, it's been admitted that it was the real tax return, so let's bypass that argument. But so we don't know how he verified it. Okay, it's possible that he verified it, and one of the ways it's possible that he verified it is that he contacted the IRS and found out Trump's tax ID, which would in and of itself be an illegal act. There's other ways of doing it, probably through a private detective agency or something. There's ways of weaseling into the government documentation, even though this is confidential information. Confidential information because it's private property. You're not allowed to reveal somebody else's tax returns. It's illegal. It's actually a Class A felony, if I'm not mistaken. I can look that up. I can put the statute in the description. Remember, a lot of the things I say on video, I'll go back and clarify them afterwards. So let me put a note of that. Okay, I'm putting the link. It's US Code 26. Sorry I have to bore you, but I'm going to make sure. Basically, you look at Clause A, subsection 3, I guess. I'm no lawyer, but it says, "No other person or officer or employee thereof who has or had access to returns or return information under subsections cited shall disclose any return or return information obtained by him in any manner in connection with his service as such an officer or an employee or otherwise or under the provisions of this section. For purposes of this subsection, the term officer or employee includes a former officer or employee." And that could be, and the previous clauses 1 and 2, they say no officer or employee of the United States and no officer or employee of any state or local law enforcement agency. So basically, nobody is entitled to reveal this information unless under the exceptions under that law, which are, they're too numerous to show. But basically, you need written request to the Secretary of the Treasury, the President, Congress. They may write a request and be privy to that information, but they're not allowed to reveal the information to the public. And that is the difference. There are people that have the right and privilege under the U.S. Code of Criminal Conduct, or the U.S. Code. They have the right to read that information and view it, but they don't have the right to disclose it. And that's what MSNBC ended up doing. I don't think that they're legally liable because they didn't leak the information, so to speak. It was this person who somehow got the tax return information into the hands of this David K. Johnston, who's claiming that it showed up in his mailbox. Now, one of the funny things about it is that, first of all, there was zero evidence of wrongdoing that was found. She made this, when I say she, Rachel Maddow really makes it hard to respect her as anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, because Maddow is just, first of all, she has the smuggest look on her face. It's as if she knows that if you don't agree with her, she doesn't respect you anyway. Meaning that her show is basically it's a display of how smart she is and how dumb her audience is. I don't see anybody on TV like that. It doesn't, even on CNN. I don't like CNN, but what's his name? Don Lemon doesn't act like that. I don't see, Megyn Kelly didn't really act like that even, and she was criticized a lot by conservatives. Melissa Harris Perry didn't act like that. She was a raving lunatic, Melissa Harris Perry, but she did have respect for most of her panelists. I mean, she was an emotional wreck, but beyond that, she did have like a lot of respect for her audience. The other people on MSNBC, there's Ann Joy Reid, or whatever her name is. Maybe it's just Joy Reid. She's another one. I think sometimes she's just ignoring what the people are saying. I see that look on her face, like she's waiting for them to shut up. That's who MSNBC has as their news deliverers, or their opinionators. I think I don't even remember. I don't even know what to call them. They're definitely not news journalists. And to be fair, and to be consistent, Maddow's show isn't a news show. It's an opinion show. It's Maddow's opinion. She's not presenting the news as it is. Bill O'Reilly isn't presenting the news as it is. And I'm not presenting the news necessarily as it is either. I'm reporting on facts. I'm talking about facts from a perspective and framing it along the lines that I see them, in this case in respect to the law, in other cases in respect to statistics and trends that I believe are the relevant ones that are to be included. Now, Maddow, what she did in this spectacle, instead of giving it that framing and making it, say that I have his tax return and I have the information and I'm going to inform you kindly that, of what he paid in 2005, first of all. So this information is from 12 years ago. And they're portraying it as if it's something that is a grand conspiracy that's 12 years in the making. I believe she talked at one point about a Russian buyer that bought one of his properties in New York City, as if that's connected to today. If you haven't noticed, let's say that property is in New York State, and I'll check if it is. There's a lot of Russians in New York City. Okay, there's a lot of Russian people that in the mid 90s to the 2000s, they started buying massive properties in New York. And that's what happened. And not every one of them is connected to Russia. Some of them might be connected to Russia. Some of them might be connected to the Russian mafia. But this has very little to do with, anything that's a concrete evidence of criminal activity. And the fact of the matter is that there were more things revealed in that stupid program that might have been one of the worst and most ill-advised leaps of fancy on TV. There were more things that helped Donald Trump out of that program than there were things that proved Maddow and the shadow cabinet's point. Look at it this way. There were, and plenty of people have already pointed this out, so I'm not refreshing anything that you can't see elsewhere. Donald Trump, first of all, paid I believe, a sum of about $35 million in taxes that year in 2005. So in order for the Democrats and their allies' talking point to be validated, he would have had to stop paying federal income taxes at some point after that year in order for their statement during the campaign that he doesn't pay his taxes to be true. Now, he paid $35 million on about $150 million of income. That was calculated to be about 24%, 24% of his total. So that is, first of all, it's a very high rate, the federal income tax. He also had some crazy deduction for charity that he contributed to. Let me just pull up the tax document and I can read it off. Okay, I have it pulled up. It's a shitty graphic. I don't know why CNBC can't make it a little more clear, but I guess, we'll just have to grin and bear it. So, oh God, this really is awful. Minus, I have to zoom out now. I zoomed in and then I had to zoom out. He did $42 million in business income, taxable interest, $9 million. Wow, they really have to learn how to use a scanner there. So basically, they revealed almost nothing from this. $35 million in total taxes, so once you add everything up. Gee, this must be very riveting. This actually might be almost as interesting as watching her stupid program from yesterday. It says add lines, these are your total payments. That everybody's done their taxes. That was the riveting TV from yesterday. And his total income, just so you understand, was $103 million. Geez, this is 163. I can't even read it. Anyway, the point of the story is this, okay? Donald Trump is a fucking rich asshole. He all the other things that they're saying about him are now, nobody's going to care about them. First of all, the fact that he's his tax returns were revealed, and all these lies that they said, he doesn't pay his taxes, he's not making much money. It's been debunked by this very ill-contrived story that Rachel Maddow did to try to, milk ratings. And the next time she does it, I can guarantee you that nobody's going to tune in. Her show has lost any credibility that it did have. There were a lot of people making comparisons between Trump's 25 or 24 or 25% rate that he paid and the rates of the Obamas and Bernie Sanders and MSNBC or NBC Universal. I don't remember what the company is called, Comcast. He had a higher rate than all of them. And that was a testament to the fact that it doesn't matter what you do, if you are trying to make money, you always take as much deductions as you can. And these people that are all frauds, the Sanders people, the Clinton people, the media people, the Republicans, they're all focusing on nothing. This is the best strategist I've ever actually witnessed in my life. I mean, his ideas some of them are actually pretty bad. His health plan is a total. I've said over and over again, I'm not going to support his healthcare plan. I'm not going to support his foreign policy with respect to the Middle East, because I don't want to see America's foreign policy dictated by oil lobbyists, like his current sit down with Saudi Arabia. And by the way, the Saudi Arabia thing, it's the most Muslim country in the world, a country where there is no religious minority. There is no non-Muslim a permanent population. They met with Donald Trump and they're actually having a good time. So there goes your retarded narrative. It doesn't make any it doesn't have any traction. It's all fake. None of it's actually real. Everybody was saying, oh, Donald Trump's not going to be able to deal with the Muslim world. Well, now he's actually sitting down with Muslim leaders, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. You have to start thinking about what's going to be the next trend, because they went through this 3-day phase of Snowmageddon and you know, the Vault 7. And what was their conclusion? Nothing. And they brought out this story that was just a distraction. It was an all-day promotion by Rachel Maddow of her show, which is a show without a show. It's a show where she basically comes on, and the only thing that you see is her smug face and, you know, innuendos about things that may have happened or may not have happened and whatever. I can do that on camera here. And I'm actually making huge efforts not to do that. I'm not trying to say that they violated the law by disclosing a federal tax return, and that therefore one of the people, David K. Johnston and Rachel Maddow or NBC Universal as a company, that they're complicit in a felony or they're accessory to a felony. I'm trying to say that it's not for sure, okay? But there's definitely a question of it, okay? And somebody did disclose that private information. Now they're trying to frame it now. They know that the story was a fail because there was no incriminating information revealed in it. Otherwise, there would have been Congress already hates Donald Trump. The Republicans have virtually no real, I want to say, integrity when it comes to their position against or for Donald Trump. They really don't. They don't have any coherent opinion. They're just a clusterfuck. There's nothing. There's no guiding principle behind them. They have nothing that ties them together. That's why the party doesn't represent people. It doesn't represent me. It doesn't represent most of conservative America. It doesn't represent moderate people. You know, there's a lot of moderate Republicans, people that are even not believing in all the ideas that I have, that the Republican Party doesn't represent them anymore. And that's why I've said that we need a different party. We need maybe not even a different party. We just need people to leave the party and become independents and start voting in independents. Rand Paul would be a good independent. If there's a party formed out of that, I mean, what the hell? I don't care. I'll support the people, but supporting a party just because it says, well, you should be in our camp because we support XYZ, we support this Donald Trump. Well, in reality, they're not supporting Donald Trump. They're supporting themselves. They're just maintaining the charade that they're a party that represents somebody. They don't really represent anybody. Not Rand Paul, but Paul Ryan may have started the beginning. This may be the beginning of the end of the two-party system, because he's such a failure. He's such a chameleon when it comes to what free market conservatives want. When he's in the opposition, he's like a roaring tiger, and now that he has all the votes he needs, he's like basically some goose flying south for the winter. You know, it's spring already, Paul Ryan. Fly the fuck home and take us out of Obamacare. Anyway, so that's not the topic for today. Anyway, Rachel Maddow, my belief is that her career is going to go into a tailspin now. It's not. First of all, the issue is that she promoted it as if it's a story, and it's not. The second issue is that people are now accusing of her of doing fake news. How it's fake news, I'm not sure. What I think it is that she put on an hour-long show of nothing. That's why, people were saying for years, that Seinfeld was a show about nothing. No, Rachel Maddow is a show about nothing. She doesn't have anything to contribute. It's all about her. It's all about looking smart. It's all about making the other person look like an idiot. I can do that right here. I don't need a studio to do that. Okay, I'll just put that up front. If I don't like somebody, I'm going to try and make them look like an idiot. Okay, and they're going to do the same thing with me. I don't need a studio to do that. I don't need to put on some fat ass from the shadow cabinet. Okay, and if you think I'm fat shaming, I'm actually pretty overweight. So it's like the N word. I can fat shame somebody. I'm also fat. Maybe not as morbidly obese as that guy was. But it's over. Her career is going to have to. She's going to have to do some real soul searching how to save her career now. Maybe it can be done. After all, there's still tons of people who want stories about how she's smarter than everybody else, and how it's possible that something could be found out about Trump, but we don't know what it is anymore. Anyway, that's about it for right now. This is Ramon with Bold Like a Leopard, and we'll see you around the bend.